Good day everyone and welcome to this class. The topic for today shall be chord building and chord inversion. Now, a chord can be seen as two or more harmonic notes played or sung together. Or a chord can still be defined as two or more notes that when played together give a pleasant sound. Now, a chord can be made of two notes, three notes, four notes, and so on. Now, if a chord is made of two notes, it is called a dyad. If it is made of three notes, it is called a triad. If it is made of four notes, it is called a tetrad, and so on. So we have dyads, triads, tetrad, extended chords, suspended chords, and so on. Now, before we discuss chords, I would like us to first of all understand intervals first, because if we understand intervals very well, chord building will not be a problem. Now, if we recall very well, we gave a table in a topic where we discussed about natural notes. We gave a table saying that Do is the first interval, Re is the second interval, Mi is the third, Fa is the fourth interval, Sol is the fifth interval, La is the sixth interval, Ti is the seventh interval, and Do, when repeated, this Do and this Do, as we say, they are the same, but they exhibit the same sound. Sorry, different sounds. Now, since they exhibit different sounds, they cannot be put under the same interval of 1. So this becomes the 8th interval. Now, when Re is repeated, the superscript, this Re and this one are the same, yes. But since they exhibit different sounds, they cannot be put under the same interval. This now becomes the 9th interval. When Mi is repeated, it becomes the 10th interval. Fa is repeated, it becomes the 11th. So becomes the 12th, and so on. Now, we also see that accidental notes occur between natural notes that have tonal distance between them. Now, from Do to Re is a tonal distance, meaning that accidental note exists here. Another accidental note is this, or you can write this as the case may be. Now, this also exists between Re and Mi. Between Mi and Fa, there is none because of the semitone. This exists between Fa and Sol. This exists between Sol and La. This exists between La and Ti. And here there is none because of the semitonal distance. Now, Do is seen as a root because it is the first interval. The second interval here is called a major second. The third interval is called the major third. The fourth interval, which is Fa, is called the perfect fourth. Sol is called the perfect fifth. La is called the major sixth. Ti is called the major seventh. And this is the 8th, the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, and so on. Now, since these natural notes have their own names, their own interval names, which is root, major second, and major third, and so on, the accidental notes also can have their own interval names because they are also intervals. Since the accidental notes are derived from the natural notes, therefore their own intervals will also be derived from the natural notes. Now, this is the root. This is the major second. Now, this is the minor second because it entails reducing the second interval by the semitone behind. So this becomes a minor second interval. This becomes a minor third interval because it entails reducing the major third by a semitone behind. Now, reducing the fourth interval by a semitone falls on Mi, which is the third interval, the major third interval. Now, reducing the fifth interval by a semitone behind will fall on Fi. This becomes the diminished fifth interval. So far we have the root, the minor second, the major second, the minor third, the major third, the perfect fourth, diminished fifth, and the perfect fifth. When we talk about diminished or minor, it entails reducing a major or a perfect interval by a semitone behind. So this becomes an augmented fifth instead of a minor sixth. You can say it's a minor sixth or an augmented fifth, because augmenting also means increasing. So we are augmenting the fifth by a semitone. So this is a root, minor second, major second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, diminished fifth, perfect fifth, augmented fifth, major sixth. This becomes the diminished seventh, reducing the seventh by semitone behind. Diminished seventh, minor seventh, major seventh, and the eighth interval, ninth interval, and so on. Now looking at this, from the root to the minor second is just a semitone. From the root to the major second is two semitones, 1, 2, two semitones, meaning that from the root to the major second is a tone, as we all know. From the root to the minor third is 3 semitones. From the root to the major third is 4 semitones. From the root to the perfect fourth is 5 semitones. From the root to the diminished fifth is 6 semitones. From the root to the perfect fifth is 7 semitones, and so on. Now, note that the root for musical notes may not always be on Do. Now, if I pick Do as my root and I'm looking for a major third, I'll just count 4 semitones from Do, and 4 semitones from Do falls on where? 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my major third. Now, if I decide to pick Fa as my root, and I'm looking for a major third, I'll just, since the major third is 4 semitones from the root, I'll simply count 4 semitones from Fa, which is my root. 1, 2, 3, 4. My major third is La. If I decide to pick Mi as my root, and I'm looking for a major third, and since a major third is 4 semitones from the root, because look at the root here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Major third is 4 semitones from the root. So if Mi is picked as the root, and we are looking for a major third from Mi, I'll simply count from Mi 4 semitones in front. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my major third. So the root may not necessarily be on Do. A root can be built on any note. A chord can be built on any of these notes. So you simply count from that note which the chord is built on, and you have your third or your major third or your perfect fifth, and so on. So if I pick So as my root, major third from So would be 1, 2, 3, 4 on T. If I'm looking for a minor third is 3 semitones from the root. 1, 2, 3. So I'll count 3 semitones from So. 1, 2, 3. That is my minor third from So as the root. Now, having understood this, we go back to chord building. We said a chord can be built of 3, 2, 4, or 5 notes, and so on. Now, if a chord is built on 2 notes, we said it's called a dyad. If it's built on 3 notes, it's called a triad. If it's built on 4 notes, it's called a tetrad. On 5 notes, and so on. Now we have dyads, triad, tetrad, suspended chords, and extended chords. Now for dyads, which is a chord of 2 notes, a dyad can be built with a root and a minor third, or a root and a major third or a root and a perfect fourth and so on, meaning that a diet can only consist of a root and a minor third, a root and a perfect third, major third, a root, a perfect fourth and so on. Now a root and a major second is rarely used in a diet. It's just used to create suspense, so it's rarely used. So if I pick me and I'm building a diet that has a root and a major third, I'll simply count 4 semitones from me because a major third from the root is 4 semitones. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my major third. So this is a diet built with a root and a major third. Now if I decide to pick Re as my root and I want to build a diet with a root and a minor third, the minor third from the root is 3 semitones. 1, 2, 3. So I'll simply count 3 semitones from Re. Wherever I end on, that will be my minor third. From Re we have 1, 2, 3. So this is my minor third. This is a diet built with a root and a minor third. Now if I decide to pick Phi as my root and I want to build a chord with a root and a perfect fourth. Perfect fourth is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 semitones from the root. So since Phi is now my root, I will count 5 semitones from Phi to have my perfect fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is my perfect fourth, and this is the diet built with a root and a perfect fourth. So this is how we derive notes for diets. Now for triads, which is a chord of 3 notes. There are various types of triads. We have major triads, minor triads, augmented triads, and diminished triads. Now for major triads, a major triad consists of a root, a major third, and a perfect fifth. And we know that a major third from the root is 4 semitones, and a perfect fifth from the root is 7 semitones. Now, from the root to the major third is 4 semitones. Now, from the root, the perfect fifth is 7 semitones, and from the root, the major third is 4 semitones. Now, how do we know the distance between the major third and the perfect fifth? You simply subtract the root from distance from the root to the major third from distance from the root to the perfect fifth. So we'll be left with 3 semitones here. Now, if we decide to pick Mi as our root, how do we derive a major third built on the root Mi? We say from the root to the major third is 4 semitones. You go back here and simply count from Mi, 4 semitones in front. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this becomes our major third on Mi. Now from the root, so the major third to the perfect fifth is 3 semitones. Go back and count from the major third. 1, 2, 3. This is a perfect fifth. So this is a major triad built on the root Mi. Now you can see that. So from the root to the perfect fifth is 7 semitones. This is the root. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. T falls on T. So whether we count 4 semitones and come back to count 7, we are still okay. Or we decide to count 4 and count 3, we are still okay. Now if we decide to pick Do as our root, a major third from Do is 4 semitones from Do. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4. This becomes our major third. And select 57 semitones from the root and 3 semitones from the major third. So we count 1, 2, 3. This is our perfect fifth. So this is a major triad built on the root Do. With these principles or these intervals we have here, you can derive more major triads built on any of these notes, built on any root. Now for minor triads. A minor triad has a root, a minor third, and a perfect fifth. Now from the root to the minor third is how many semitones? 1, 2, 3. 3 semitones. From the root to the perfect fifth, how many semitones? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 semitones. Now, if the root from the root to the minor third is 3 semitones, from the minor third to the perfect fifth is 4 semitones. Subtracting 2 semitones from 7 semitones, that's 4 semitones. Now, if we decide to pick Fa as our root, from the root to the minor third is 3 semitones. So we go from Fa to the front 1, 2, 3. This becomes our minor third. From minor third to the perfect fifth is 4 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4. This becomes our perfect fifth. So this is a minor triad built on the root Fa. Now if we decide also to pick La as our root, from the root to the minor third is 3 semitones. 1, 2, 3. This becomes our minor third. From the minor third to the perfect fifth is 4 semitones. Now, I want force on red here. Sorry, yes. No, not on red. We have this here because this also be repeated there, and we have this here. So, counting 4 semitones from the minor third, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we see how 7 semitones from the root. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So this becomes our perfect fifth. So this is a minor triad built on the root La. Now if we also decide to pick Mi as our root, from the root to the minor third is 3 semitones. So we count 3 semitones from Mi in front. We have 1, 2, 3, and that is our minor third. Now from the minor third, the perfect fifth is 4 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4. Falls on T. This is our perfect fifth. So this is a minor triad built on the root Mi. Now with this principle, you can build chords on any root. You can build minor triads on any root. Now for diminished triads, Diminished triad has a root, a minor third, and a diminished fifth. Now, from the root to the minor third, as we say, is 3 semitones. 1, 2, 3. Now, from the root to the diminished fifth, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 semitones. Now, from the root to the third is 3 semitones. From the minor third to the diminished fifth will also be 3 semitones. Removing this from this. Now, if we decide to pick T as our root, from root to the minor third is 3 semitones. So we are going to count 1, 2, and 3. Falling on re, this becomes a minor third. And from the minor third to the diminished fifth, 3 semitones. 1, 2, 3. Falling on fa, it becomes a diminished fifth. So this is a diminished triad built on the root T. Now, if we decide also to pick fa as our root, from the root to the minor third is 3 semitones. So we count from fa 3 semitones in front. 1, 2, 3. This becomes a minor third. From the minor third to the diminished fifth is 3 semitones. 1, 2, 3. This becomes a diminished fifth. So this is the diminished triad built on the root fa. You can see count it this way for the diminished fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 semitones from the root gives us T. So with this principle, you can derive any diminished chord on any root. Now for augmented triads, we have a root, a major third, and an augmented fifth. Now from the root to the major third, as we said earlier, is 4 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4. From the root to the augmented fifth is 8 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Augmented fifth. So if from the root to the third is 4 semitones, from the root major third to the augmented fifth is also 4 semitones. I'm moving 4 from 8. So if you decide to pick do as our root, we pick do as our root. 4 semitones from do fall on mi. 1, 2, 3, 4. So mi becomes a major third. From major third to the augmented fifth is 4 semitones. So we count from mi 4 semitones in front. 1, 2, 3, 4. It becomes augmented fifth. So this is an augmented triad built on the root do. Now if we pick fa as our root, from the root to the major third is 4 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this becomes a major third. From the major third to the augmented fifth is 4 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this becomes our augmented fifth. Now this is a triad built on fa as the root, an augmented triad. So with this principle we have here, you can build more augmented triads on any of these notes as the root. Now for suspended chords, because we are done with the triads now, I'm moving on to suspended chords. From the name, they are used to create suspense. We said earlier that when we're talking about triads, that notes with two semitones, that is a root and a major second, are used to create suspense. So they are also applied here to create suspense. Now, there are various types of suspended chords. We have suspended second and the suspended fourth. Now, the suspended second has a root, a major second, and a perfect fifth. Suspended fourth has a root, a perfect fourth, and a perfect fifth. Now we say from the root to the major second is two semitones. 1, 2. From the root to the perfect fifth is 7 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now for suspended fourth, from the root to the perfect fourth is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 semitones. From the root to the perfect fifth, as we all know, is 7 semitones. Now, if you watch very well, from the root to the major second is 2 semitones. So this is where the suspense comes from. Now, the suspended fourth, from the perfect fourth to the perfect fifth, 7 minus 5 is left with what? 2 semitones. So this is where the suspense comes from. So this is suspended fourth for here and suspended second for this. The suspended second, from the root to the third is 2 semitones. From the third to the perfect fifth. From the root to the major second, 2 semitones, and here we will be left with 5 semitones. Because 7 minus 2 gives us 5. So if we decide to pick Do as our root, 2 semitones from Do will take us to Re, 1, 2. This becomes our major second. And 5 semitones from Re will take us to Sol, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This becomes our perfect fifth. So this is the suspended second chord built on the root Do. Now if we pick La as our root, from the root to the major second is 2 semitones. 1, 2. This becomes our major second on this suspended chord, and from this major second to the perfect fifth is 5 semitones. 1, 2, and 3 on Re, 4, and 5. So this becomes our perfect fifth. Now this is the suspended second chord built on the root La. With this principle you can build most suspended second chords. Now for suspended fourth, the suspended fourth chord, you say we have a root, a perfect fourth, and a perfect fifth. From the root to the perfect fourth is 5 semitones, as we said here, and if that is 5, here becomes 2 semitones, because 7 minus 5 gives us 2. Now if we decide to pick Do as our root, from the root to the perfect fourth will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our perfect fourth is on fa, and from the perfect fourth to the perfect fifth is 2 semitones, 1, 2. So becomes our perfect fifth. So this is a suspended fourth chord built on the root do. Now if our root becomes mi, from the root to the perfect fourth is 5 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. La becomes our perfect fourth. And from the perfect fourth to the perfect fifth is 2 semitones. 1, 2. T becomes our perfect fifth. So this is a suspended fourth chord built on the root mi. So this very close, you can see build more perfect suspended fourth chords built on any of these notes as the root. Now we said that a suspended chord is used to create suspense. Now when this suspense has lasted a while, it has to come to an end. Now for a suspended chord to come to an end, it is to be resolved to the nearest major chord. Now do, re, so, as we did earlier, is an example of a suspended second chord. Now, looking at these notes in this chord, it has two properties of a major chord. So, T, re, you say in major chords, from the root to the third is 4 semitones. So from so we move to Z, 1. From C to La, 2 semitones. La to Li, 3 semitones, and Li to T, 4 semitones. So these are third, and from the third to the fifth is 3 semitones. T to Do, 1. Do to D, 2, and D to Re, 3 semitones. So Ti Re is a major chord. Now Do, Re, So has two properties of this major chord. So this is the most suitable major chord for this to be resolved to. Now since this belongs to this chord and this is what is absent here, this now will be resolved to this, to change this chord to this and end the suspense. Now, another example for the suspended fourth chord. This is an example of the suspended fourth chord. The root, perfect fourth, and perfect fifth. Looking at this, it has two properties of major chord. Do, mi, so, do and so, do and so. Mi is the only thing missing here. So fa will be resolved to mi to change this chord to this and end the suspense. Now let's take a look at the keyboard. Let's talk of suspended chords, and if we are playing on C, this becomes our Do. And if we decide to pick Do as our root for the suspended chord we are about to build, 2 semitones from Do will take us to the major second, which is on Re. Now, from the major second, the perfect fifth, we say it's 5 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then on to So, which is Do, Re, So, on key C. Now, listen very well, you can hear the suspense. And we said the major chord for this to be resolved into should have the two properties of this chord, which is this and this. Now, Do is to be replaced with T, and T is just a semitone behind from Do. So this will be resolved to this to end the suspense. Now, for the suspended fourth chord, we give an example of do, fa, sol. Now, if you are picking do on C, from the root to the perfect fourth is 5 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 semitones to the fifth. Now, we say this is to be resolved to a major chord, do, mi, sol, and that chord should have two properties of this chord, which is do and sol. Now, the fa will resolve to mi, and mi is just a semitone behind from fa. So this will resolve to this to end the suspense. Exhausted chord building, we move to chord inversion. Now, the root in a chord is normally the lowest note in a chord, but chord inversion proposes that the lowest note in a chord must not necessarily be the root of that chord. Now, if you have a chord like do, mi, sol, do, mi, sol, the root is do, and do is the lowest note here. Now, even if we have this, do, mi, sol, for the fact that they all have superscript, do is the lowest note. And if you have something like this, do, and the mi carries one below, and the sol carries one below. When moving on the scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, mi comes before sol, do comes before mi. But for the fact that we have this subscript here, this mi is this, and this sol is this, and this do is this. From this, you can see that the mi is now lower than the do. The mi now comes before the do, the sol comes before the do. Therefore, mi is now the lowest note in this chord. Therefore, this chord has been inverted from the root being the lowest note to the third being the lowest note. Now, when the third becomes the lowest note in a chord, it is called the first inversion. It is called the first inversion. Now, if we have a chord like this, the sol is carrying a subscript. The mi is normal, the do is normal. Therefore, this is the sol, this is the do, and this is the mi. From this, the sol has now become the lowest note because it comes before do, and the do comes before mi. Therefore, this chord, which is normally do, mi, sol, has been inverted to sol, do, mi. Now, if a chord is not in its root position, if the fifth becomes the lowest note, that chord is in its second inversion. If the third becomes the lowest note, the chord is in its first inversion. If the fifth becomes the lowest note, it is called the second inversion. Now, if we have this, if you have a chord like do, this first clip, and sol normal, you can see that this is the sol, this is the do, and this is the mi. From this, we now have sol, do, mi, sol, do, mi, sol, do, mi. Although they are in different octaves, but as far as the sol is the lowest note, the chord is in second inversion. It is called the second inversion. If we have a chord like this, yes, the do has a superscript. This is the mi, this is the sol, and this is the do. The mi has now become the lowest note because the mi here comes before sol and the do superscript. This chord, mi sol do, and this chord, mi sol do, are in their second inversion. While they are in different octaves, as far as the third, which is mi, is the lowest note, it is called the second inversion. And if the fifth is the lowest note, it is called the second, and the third is called the first inversion. Now, if we decide to pick fa as our root, and we have a chord like this chord is in its root position, it is not inverted. If we have a chord like this, if we have a chord like this, fa, la, do, with the la having a subscript, this is the la, this is the do normal, and this is the fa normal. We now have la, do, fa. Now the la has become the lowest note because it comes before the do, and do comes before fa. This chord is now in its first inversion because la, which is the third, has now become the lowest note. If we have this, fa, la, do, on the scale, do comes before fa and fa comes before la. They are all in normal octave. So this becomes do, fa, la. Now, do, which is the fifth, has now become the lowest note. Therefore, this chord is no longer in the position. It has now become the second inversion because the fifth is now the lowest note. So with this idea, you can find other inversions for other chords. So I believe we understand. This is the end of our class for today. If you understand, you can send me your questions. Thank you.